Have you ever found yourself doing what feels like the right thing? Taking your mom, your dad, or even yourself for that next checkup, just to be safe? You sit in that cold waiting room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, flipping through old magazines, hoping to catch something early to stay ahead of the curve. Because that's what we're told, right? Early detection saves lives. But what if I told you that after 70, these routine checkups, those blood draws, those scans, those pokes and prods, could actually be taking time away instead of giving it back? What if the very thing we cling to for peace of mind is quietly chipping away at the very peace we're trying to protect? Let's be honest, when you're caring for someone in their 70s, 80s, or beyond, everything matters. A small change in appetite, a slip in memory, a new pill added to the shelf. It can feel like you're constantly walking a tightrope between care and chaos. And sometimes those checkups, they can push your loved one off that rope faster than you ever imagined. I've seen it too many times. A woman takes her dad in for a routine test. They find something suspicious. He's rushed through scans, labs, specialists. Suddenly his quiet life is filled with stress, fear, and hospital gowns. And the worst part? It wasn't even something dangerous. But the spiral had already begun. We don't talk about this enough. How overcare, overtesting, and even the well-meaning pursuit of health can sometimes lead to the exact opposite of what we're trying to achieve. Less freedom, less dignity, less life. So today, I want to shake things up. I want to challenge what you've been told, because loving someone well in their older years isn't about checking every box on a doctor's form. It's about knowing what matters most and when to say, enough. In this video, we're diving into 5 shocking reasons why regular health checkups after age 70 might actually shorten your loved one's lifespan. We'll look at what happens behind the scenes in the body, the mind, and the heart. We'll talk about what doctors don't always tell you. And most importantly, we'll talk about how you can step in, get wiser, and make better choices for those you love. So stay with me. This might just change the way you think about aging forever. Backhand index pointing, right? If you've ever looked at all the pills, the appointments, the test results, and thought, is this really helping? Comment below and just write, still learning. You're not alone. And if you care about growing older with strength, wisdom, and dignity, or helping someone else do the same, then please subscribe to Thriving Oldies. This is where we talk about aging honestly and beautifully. Let's get into it. Picture this. Grandpa Joe, who still enjoys his early morning walks and his crossword puzzles with a cup of tea, goes in for a routine scan. Just routine. No symptoms, no complaints. He feels fine. But then, bam. The doctor calls the next day. There's a small spot on your lung we want to look into. And just like that, the piece is gone. What was supposed to be a routine visit turns into a whirlwind. Follow-up scans, a biopsy, specialist appointments. Words like, we can't rule anything out, or it's probably nothing, but let's be sure. Meanwhile, Joe, who was calm, steady, and independent, is now worried, tired, confused. He can't sleep. He loses his appetite. His family starts planning around appointments. His days are no longer his own. They're ruled by machines, paperwork, and long hallways. And then, the final results come back. Benign, non-cancerous, nothing to worry about. Just a harmless nodule, something many people over 70 have, that wouldn't have caused a single problem if it had never been found. But the damage has been done. The fear, the tests, the physical stress, the emotional toll, it all could have been avoided. Now, here's the truth. As we age, our bodies develop little quirks. Small cysts, calcifications, nodules. Most of them are normal. They're like wrinkles on the inside. Visible but harmless. But modern tests? They catch everything. Even the stuff that doesn't matter. And once something is spotted, doctors feel obligated to act. Because what if? And I get it, we all want to be cautious. We all want to make sure we're not missing anything. But here's the problem. The more we look, the more we find. The more we find, the more we fear. And the more we fear, the more we treat, even when treatment might be worse than the thing itself. We've been taught to believe that more tests equals more protection. But in our elders, more tests often mean more stress, more procedures, and more decline. Too often families say, well, it's probably nothing, but let's be safe. But in the world of aging care, that kind of safety can backfire. Before agreeing to more scans or pokes or scopes, stop. Ask yourself this simple question: will knowing this change the outcome? Or will it just complicate it? Because if the answer is no, then maybe it's time to choose peace over panic, comfort over control, living fully over living afraid. And speaking of complications, the next reason is even more dangerous. Because sometimes it's not the test that hurts, it's what comes after the test. Let's talk about medication overload. Meet Mrs. Amina. She was 72, sharp as ever, still loved tending to her flowers and catching up with her grandchildren on weekend video calls. She had 5 prescriptions, fairly typical for her age. A little something for blood pressure, a cholesterol med, a mild sleeping aid. The usual mix. But then came a few checkups. Nothing major, just the kind that find things a little off. One doctor said her calcium levels were slightly low. Another spotted a touch of reflux. A third raised an eyebrow at her blood sugar, borderline, they called it. So what happened? They each added something. Just to be safe. Just for prevention. Just until your next visit. By 75, she was on 11 medications. 11. She started getting dizzy. She couldn't focus. Her once vibrant energy faded like an old photograph. Her family thought, is it dementia setting in? It was the cocktail of medications interacting with one another, tugging on her nervous system, draining her clarity, stealing her spark. Here's the thing nobody tells you. As we get older, our liver and kidneys, the organs that filter out medication, don't work as fast as they used to. What might be a normal dose for a 40-year-old can hit a 75-year-old like a brick. And when there are 6, 7, or more of those meds in the mix, side effects don't just add up, they multiply. What's worse? Most of the time, these medications aren't curing anything. They're managing numbers, tinkering with lab values, trying to create a picture of perfect health on paper, while the person behind the paper slowly slips away. And we get caught in the trap, because we think, if it's prescribed, it must be safe. But that's not always true. Medications, especially in combination, can cause confusion, falls, fatigue, even hospitalizations. So what can you do? You can ask about deprescribing. Yes, it's a real thing. Many doctors now understand the importance of simplifying medication lists, especially for seniors. Do we still need this? Is this medicine improving her life, or just treating a number? Can we try tapering this off? And review that list every year. Don't wait until things go wrong. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to say, let's make things simpler. Less confusion. Less fog. Less burden on a tired body. Because less can truly be more. But here's something you might not see coming. Even when the medications are carefully managed, even when the tests are normal, there's another silent enemy. One that doesn't show up in blood work. One that creeps in between appointments and steals joy quietly day by day. Let's talk about stress and how checkups can cause far more of it than you ever imagined. Now I want you to meet Mr. Emmanuel, a quiet, kind-hearted man in his late 70s, loved by his neighbors, sharp with his stories, and faithful to his morning prayer walks. But every 6 months, without fail, his peace gets stolen, because that's when it's time for his blood tests. And not just one. Fasting blood sugar, kidney function, cholesterol, thyroid, PSA, liver enzymes. Each test, one more stone of anxiety on his shoulders. He starts worrying weeks before the appointment. Can't sleep, loses his appetite, runs through 100 what-ifs in his head. What if they find something bad this time? What if my numbers aren't good enough? What if I'm told something I don't want to hear? And this isn't rare. This is real. This is what medical anxiety looks like in older adults. They may not say it out loud, but you can see it in the way their hands tremble at the clinic, in how their eyes scan the nurse's face during a blood draw, searching for clues, in the sigh of relief or the silence that follows the doctor's visit. But here's the part that hits hard. The stress? It's not just emotional. It's biological. The human body responds to anxiety by producing cortisol, a stress hormone. Now, in small doses, cortisol is helpful. It keeps us alert. But in older adults, chronic stress, even mild ongoing stress, can have damaging effects. Can raise blood pressure, increase the risk of heart disease, disrupt sleep patterns, and even accelerate memory loss in those already struggling with cognition. So imagine this loop. The very checkups meant to protect someone like Mr. Emmanuel are slowly raising his health risks. He's doing the right thing, but it's making him feel worse, not better. And still, we do it. But because we think being proactive is always better. But here's the truth you rarely hear. For many elders, frequent checkups can make them feel like ticking time bombs. Always waiting for bad news. Always feeling watched, monitored, evaluated. And that wears down the soul. It erodes the confidence, the calm, the sense of control every elder deserves. So what can we do instead? First, space things out. Not every checkup needs to happen every 3 or 6 months. Ask the doctor, is this urgent or just routine? Can we come back in a year instead? Second, balance the medical with the meaningful. For every appointment on the calendar, add a joy activity. A picnic at the park, an afternoon with grandchildren, a hobby they love but haven't had time for. Because a life that's constantly focused on what's wrong forgets to celebrate what's still right. And joy, believe it or not, is just as powerful a medicine as any pill. But sometimes the danger we're trying to avoid doesn't come from stress alone. Sometimes it comes from the very place we go to feel safe, the place we trust with healing. Let's talk about hospital exposure and the unseen risks that come with just stepping through those doors. Let me tell you a story that still aches in the hearts of a family I once knew. Nana was 83, gentle, graceful, the kind of woman who could quiet a room with her calm presence. She was doing well, still cooked her own meals, enjoyed old gospel hymns, and loved sipping warm pap every morning on her porch. Then came a routine screening. Just a standard lab visit, nothing urgent. Her daughter insisted, it's just to make sure everything's still okay. They went in. The visit was quick and out, but a few days later, Nana began coughing. Then came the fever, the weakness. She stopped eating, became disoriented. Within 2 weeks, this strong, elegant woman couldn't get out of bed. She had picked up a respiratory infection from the clinic. Something her body, in its younger years, would have fought off in a heartbeat. But now, her immune system couldn't handle it. And just like that, everything changed. Now hear me carefully. This isn't about blaming hospitals or nurses. Clinics do their best. They sanitize. They wear gloves. They follow protocol. But the truth is, no medical setting is ever truly germ-free. Not completely. There are bacteria, viruses, and airborne pathogens that live in hospitals, many of them resistant to antibiotics. To a healthy young adult, they're mostly harmless. But to someone over 70, with a slower immune response, fragile lungs, and maybe a pre-existing condition, that small exposure can turn into a full-blown crisis. Elders are not just older adults, they are different biologically. Their immune defenses are thinner, their recovery is slower, and their risks are higher. But here's the misconception we often hold. If it's just a routine visit, there's no harm. It's a quick check. She'll be fine. But routine does not mean risk-free. Even a simple visit, just to check blood pressure or do a scan, can introduce exposure, especially when waiting rooms are shared, when someone coughing sits nearby, when sanitation lapses for even a moment. So what can you do? Backhand index pointing right first, evaluate the real necessity of each appointment. Is this visit going to change the care plan? Can we wait another month, or skip it entirely? Backhand index pointing right second, explore safer options. Many hospitals now offer teleconsults, video or phone appointments, especially for non-urgent follow-ups. Even mobile health services that come to the home. And sometimes, the best care is simply watchful presence at home, paired with good nutrition, movement, and connection. Because being seen by a doctor is important, but not at the cost of catching something that steals weeks, months, or even years from someone you love. Now, I know we've talked about a lot. Overdiagnosis, too many meds, stress from checkups, and now hospital exposure. But there's one final danger. One that's quiet, yet powerful. It's not found in test tubes or prescriptions. It's found in words, in labels, and how they silently shape the way our loved ones see themselves. Let's talk about the last, and maybe the most heartbreaking, reason why checkups after 70 can actually shorten a person's life. The damage done by a diagnosis. And now, the final reason. The one that cuts the deepest, not into the skin but into the spirit. From labels, let me tell you about Mr. Bello. He was a retired school principal. Sharp-minded, disciplined, always in a crisp shirt, even at home. He loved books, solved puzzles for fun, and would gently correct his grandchildren's grammar with a smile. At 78, he started misplacing his keys. Repeated himself now and then. Nothing alarming, just the sort of things that happen with age. But after a routine cognitive screening, the doctor looked at him and said, "You may be in the early stages of dementia." Just like that? With that one word, dementia, everything changed. Mr. Bello grew quiet, stopped reading, stopped teaching his grandkids, stopped joking around. He began second-guessing every sentence. Every forgetful moment felt like proof of failure. Even things he still could do, he stopped trying, because in his mind, the diagnosis meant defeat. His confidence crumbled. His independence faded. And the saddest part? The symptoms didn't get worse. He did. That's the invisible power of a label. You see, in the medical world, labels are meant to inform, to guide treatment, to give clarity. But in the world of elderly care, labels can become cages. Words like frail, degenerative, demented, terminal, they sound clinical. But when spoken without care, they echo in the hearts of our loved ones, and they change the way they see themselves. The science supports this. Studies show that elders who are labeled with a serious diagnosis, even when mild, often decline faster. Because they begin to live under the shadow of that label. They stop striving. They lose the fight. They feel less than. And it's not just about dementia. It's when someone is told, "You're too old for that surgery. You're high risk. You probably won't recover well." Suddenly, they're not a person anymore. They're a condition. And families, with the best of intentions, repeat those words. She has arthritis. He's diabetic. She's frail. But what if we flip that? What if, instead of focusing on what's wrong, we highlighted what's strong? What if we said, "Yes, there's a diagnosis, but here's what you can still do. Yes, this is hard, but we're not done fighting. Yes, you're aging, but you are still here. Still valuable. Still capable. So here's my plea to you. Let diagnosis guide care, but never let it define someone. Let treatment plans evolve, but don't let hope dissolve. Speak life. Speak strength. Speak future. Because words don't just describe reality, they shape it. But I know, this is a lot to take in. You might be feeling overwhelmed. Like, how did we get here? Or, have we already made some of these mistakes? You're not alone. Let's pause now and talk about how to make sense of all this. Let's move into the heart of it, the emotional weight of caregiving, and how to turn fear into love. It's hard, isn't it? Not just the aging, but watching it. Witnessing the quiet decline of someone you love, not always from the disease itself, but from the fear, the pills, the endless appointments, the labels that cling too tightly. Overwhelm disguised as care. It's heartbreaking. You see your once independent father become hesitant, not because his legs are weak, but because he's lost confidence in his own body. You notice your mother, once sharp and spirited, begin to shrink inward, more from emotional exhaustion than illness. And deep down you wonder, are we helping, or are we just making them feel broken? That question, it sits heavy in your chest. But here's the beautiful thing. You're here. You're asking. You're willing to look closer. And that means you're already halfway to doing something extraordinary. Because now that you know these hidden risks, the overdiagnosis, the medication overload, the checkup stress, the exposure to infections, and the harmful power of labels, you don't have to operate from fear anymore. You can shift from frantic fixing to intentional caring, from being reactive to being ready, from chasing perfect lab numbers to prioritizing peace. It starts with something small, something so simple, like a phone call. Call your loved one today, not to remind them about their next appointment, not to check if they've taken their medication. Just call to ask how they're feeling, to listen, to be present, to hear their voice, not filtered through medical charts, but as a human with joys, fears, wisdom, and longings. Sit with them. Ask what brings them comfort, what makes them feel alive, what they want more of in this season of life. Because awareness isn't just information, it's a tool. And in the right hands, your hands, it becomes protection. You now hold the power to help your loved ones live the rest of their days not in a fog of fear or a blur of medical intervention, but with clarity, warmth, and meaning. Your love doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to come with a prescription. It just needs to be present, thoughtful, aware. Let them know they're not just aging, they're still living. And that living, when supported with love and wisdom, can be rich, deep, and joy-filled, even in the final chapters. You're not powerless. You're prepared. And that changes everything. Let's take a breath together and just go back over what we've uncovered today. Because this wasn't just another health video. This was a wake-up call. A gentle one, but one that speaks to the heart of how we care for our elders. So here's a quick recap of the 5 shocking reasons why routine health checkups after 70 may do more harm than good. First, overdiagnosis. Those harmless spots and nodules that set off alarms, but would have never caused a single problem. Yet they lead to tests, panic, and procedures that steal peace and energy. Second, polypharmacy, or medication overload. One little prescription at a time, until a handful turns into a drawerful, and slowly, the light in someone's eyes begins to dim. Third, the stress. The kind that builds quietly. The anxiety before every appointment. The sleepless nights, the fear of bad news. And how those invisible burdens start affecting the heart, the mind, and the body. Fourth, the hidden dangers of hospitals and clinics. Not because people aren't doing their best, but because even clean places carry germs. And for elders, exposure can lead to infections they simply can't fight off. And finally, the psychological damage of labels. The way a single diagnosis can become a prison. The way words like dementia or frail can make someone stop believing in themselves before the illness even has a chance to act. Now I want to ask you something personal. Which one of these risks surprised you the most? Or maybe you've watched one of these play out, silently, painfully, in someone you love? Let's talk in the comments. Because this isn't just information, it's lived experience. And your story might be the encouragement someone else needs to speak up, slow down, or choose differently. Just scroll down and share your thoughts. I read every single one, and I learned from them. If this video opened your eyes, even just a little, if it made you pause, reflect, or whisper to yourself, "I never thought of it that way," then please give it a thumbs up. It tells the algorithm this matters. And it tells me that we're on the right path together. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Thriving Oldies. This is where we talk about what really matters in aging. Not just what's medical, but what's meaningful. Not just what extends life, but what enriches it. Because here, we believe aging should be honored, not feared. Protected, not over-policed. And celebrated every step of the way. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Thank you for caring. Thank you for choosing love over routine, wisdom over worry, peace over panic. Stay strong, stay wise, and above all, stay thriving. I'll see you in the next one.